Hello, my name is Vahur Puik and I am recording my presentation only some 40-minute drive from Haapsalu in our country home. And I want to talk about a crowdsourcing platform and its user community that we have been running here in Estonia for the last 9 years. So the organization I represent is Estonian Photographic Heritage Society, and I think it's important to stress that it's a non-profit organization. It's a association type of organization uniting people who are working with photographic heritage. And we don't have a collection of our own or even permanent stuff. I basically the only paid worker dealing with the platform called Ajapaik. And when we are looking at the topics of the conference, I found this question of how to make heritage sites meaningful for everyone. And I am suggesting one way today. So if we think about sites or places, then I think you agree with me that a lot of travel is related to the history of places, and this is the heritage of the places. So these two things are very much interconnected. History creates heritage, and then places connect heritage. But there is one more aspect that I want to bring into this picture, and this is visual. So visual heritage, historic photographs, but also paintings, for instance. And therefore I think that it is also interesting to not only see the historic sites, but also to look at the old pictures depicting old these heritage sites that we are interested in or want to visit. For instance, this is a picture of the Haapsalu castle from more than 100 years ago. And it's also important to think that these historic pictures actually can also depict heritage sites. So basically we have these two types of heritage that are overlapping. We have landscape and built heritage, and then we have historic pictures that is depicting these same places and are of importance as this photographic or heritage or paintings, graphic art, but at the same time they relate to these places that they depict and give an extra layer to these. So I think that in that sense it's very interesting to also look at historic pictures of these heritage sites. For instance, here we have a picture of the famous Haapsalu railway station, a wooden building with a very long wooden building. And next step, very natural next step, is to think about having when we think about having all these location aware smart devices with us, mobile phones and tablets, etc., that it's very natural to think about this kind of a mobile travel guide apps that would have historic content in it that depends on where we are and shows us content from nearby. For instance, this is these are pictures from one street of Tallinn Old Town, Vene Street, and even to think about this content in this kind of augmented reality manner, like here, where we can see an historic photograph on top of the real-time camera stream. So, and we can adjust this historic picture accordingly. I come back to that later. And this is related to also map-based access to content or to pictorial content. So this is Haapsalu Castle on the map, and all these individual arrows are individual photographs of the castle. And I think it's a trivial statement in a way, but important to bear in mind, or not, that actually every photograph has been taken in a very specific place. The photographer was standing and pointing his or her camera and making this selection of what to include in the picture, and then press the shutter release. But there is a big problem with these historic pictures that are in public or private collections that now get digitized and also become available online, that if we want to search this content, it is mostly only searchable by text, by textual descriptions. And what is missing is this location metadata in the form of geographic coordinates that actually enables us to display this content on a map, like a couple of slides ago, to display every individual photograph as a point, or even as an arrow with its direction of view on a map. And the need for this kind of data about cultural heritage content has been recognized long since. There's a very good report from 2012 already about geocoded digital cultural content, and I very much agree with this thought that geographic location is one of the most important attributes. And why is that? Because it enables us to search for content in a more user-friendly way, without the necessity of typing geographical names. And for instance, if we think about toponyms or place names, these tend to change over the time. For instance, in the Estonian context, most of the streets and squares have had different names, or maybe not most, but many of the most important ones at least, under different regimes. So Soviet era renamed the streets, and now they have been named back to the etc. So but usually the description of an image in a collection is from this time when the picture was taken into the collection. And this makes it much more complex to search for content and to find content. So again, we need a map for users to, in a more user-friendly or easier way, based on the location of the user, to display content to user. And also it gives us the possibility to discover overlapping content. Like for instance, this is a view from tower of the Haapsalu Castle, and actually we have several pictures with almost the same direction of the view from different era and different photographers, and all these have this overlapping content here that we can use to compare images and track the changes, for instance. This here is an objective from the strategy of the Europeana, which is this pan-European cultural heritage portal. It's one of the first class of objectives, and it's about what I was just talking about, making it easier to find content. But still, at the moment, for instance, if we're looking for content about Haapsalu, although we have different parameters or categories that we can, or filters that we can use to narrow search, but the main search interface is still textual search. If we look at other objectives of Europeana, and I think I use these as this kind of a meta level institution, and I agree with these objectives very much. That you see that almost of the same importance as adding high quality heritage content, digitized heritage content, is the metadata about this content. And there has been a lot of hopes related to the machine learning and artificial intelligence that can come help us. And this is also one of the next objectives, to try to improve metadata automatically. And this has already been done. For instance, there's an article about experiment a year ago about using neural networks for the study of historical images. And what they state here is what I've also been telling already, that textual descriptions have very many problematic aspects to them. So they are language specific first, but they are also inconclusive or even erroneous. And machine vision or computer vision and machine learning are becoming more and more capable of recognizing different kind of objects on the image that might not have been described in the description of the image, and thereby giving us new ways to search for content with this kind of automatic tagging, for instance. But at the same time, there is still some things that machine learning is not good at, and this is about the context of the things or the relations between the things. So if we think about the pictures as data, and then we have this metadata about pictures, and let's say it is very important to say that metadata that has been recorded, that's been written down, so that is covering only some aspects of the informational content of pictures. Now, if we take artificial intelligence to help us, then we can cover more of the content on the image. But then there is still a lot of contextual information that is not directly visible on the image, but that demands for extra knowledge about persons, events and places on the pictures. And here I am convinced that for some time being there is still a lot of place for human knowledge and human help, and so-called the method of crowdsourcing, asking wider audiences to help enrich content with additional data. And I very much believe in that. And also, for instance, Europeana brings it out as one of the objectives. So in addition to using these automatic enrichment technologies, there is also need to use crowdsourcing and to use users. There's a thought on the site of the conference that people are better connected to heritage when they are actively involved as co-creators of interpretation. I agree completely, but I would also like to bring out this quite well-known pyramid about data, information, knowledge, and wisdom, that all are kind of different levels of knowledge. And I think that if we are talking about interpretation, then interpretation is in these very high levels, of knowledge and wisdom, where we can talk about interpreting content. But there is actually a lot of work to be done about these lower levels, this data and information aspects of heritage content and pictorial heritage. And I believe that the only way to achieve the goals is to do it in a distributed way, so that that many people can give their contributions, so that this knowledge or information is incrementally growing, and that is also socially validated. It's not realistic to think of only some dedicated administrators who should be validating all the submissions of information or data that users are doing, because where would they know if all of that is correct or not? So the only way we believe is to have users validating other users' inputs. And these have been the main pillars of the crowdsourcing platform called Ajapaik that we have been. It is a combination of two words, about time and place. So Aeg in Estonian is time, and paik is one way to one word to for places. And 9 years ago, we started with the first task of geotagging. So I think is one of the most central tasks. This is one very early screenshot of our user interface. This is a central old town of Tallinn, and so geotagging was the task that we focused on. But I now also want to ask you also to think about what kind of knowledge we need from the users when we offer them crowdsourcing tasks. And I say that there could be made a distinction between a generic and specific kind of knowledge. And if we look at different crowdsourcing tasks, then some of them demand for more generic kind of knowledge, and others for more specific or contextual knowledge. So transcribing is one of the most common crowdsourcing tasks. There are very many initiatives and platforms around the world that invite users to contribute in recognizing and transcribing handwritten text. And if we think about it, it's actually, of course, we need to know the language of the text, and then we need to be able to read the handwriting, which might not be an easy task at all. But once we have learned this, basically we can do this task endlessly. The only limitation is how much time we can put into that. Whereas the task of geotagging is a specific one. So we actually need to recognize the building or the place that is on the picture, or use other sources to verify and match, and so this is a different kind of knowledge that is actually needed. Or for instance, other tasks of age and gender categorization or connecting duplicates, these are actually tasks that can be pretty well performed by, or very well performed by machine learning algorithms as well. But if we ask from people to do that, so it basically is enough to be human to say whether a person on a picture is a man or a woman, although there are edge cases, of course. Whereas identifying a specific person, again, is something where we need specific knowledge. We need to this person on the picture. And now when we come back to the task of geotagging, then we could also ask, what are we actually what are we geotagging? What is the location? So we can talk about the objects on the picture, the buildings, for instance, or the camera location. And both are valid starting points, only that when we look at again this panorama from the Haapsalu castle tower, there are very many buildings on these pictures, or even every single one of these, and and the trick is that objects on the picture, there are many, whereas the camera location is only one, single and finite. So this is also the reason that why we started with this camera location, that the task that we ask our users to do is to put pictures on the map where the photographer was really standing, and determine also the direction of the view the camera was pointed at. And then another question is that I, in a way, already when I was talking about the different kind of knowledge needed for the task of geotagging. So of course the most easiest way is if people recognize the places on the pictures. So for instance, if we look at this picture and it's only known about it, or in the description, that it's a hairdresser's sign in Riga from early 90s, I think, then that's probably not there anymore. It's very hard for anybody else than somebody who used to live there and remembers that sign to be able to put this on the map. But actually there might be other cases, like for instance, if we have another picture of the same place that has more context to it, and that this is a previously Estonian embassy building in Riga, Latvia. We have already much more information about the place here. So if we go through different pictures, we can make these connections that have not been recorded in the metadata of the pictures, and actually be able to put these pictures on the map. I give another personal examples. This picture, for instance, is a demonstration of the Estonian diaspora in the New York City, and in the collection record it is only said that the location is specified only on the city level, so New York. Nowadays we have things like Google Street View, which is a 360-degree panoramic photographic total record of our environment, from most of the public roads at least. And so while using this and searching for Rolex stores in New York City, I was actually able to also pin this picture on the map. But of course it takes much more time and effort for somebody who doesn't recognize this place. Give floor to some of Ajapaik top contributors to let them speak what is motivating them to contribute in Ajapaik. And first is Tauno.
Ja oli ka paras ajalootund ja viktoriin, et hakkasid vaatama ka need linnaosasid, mida sa eriti ei tundnud, aga hakkasid neid järjest tundma õppima. See oli selline hea õppeprotsess samal ajal. Ja ka mõnes mõttes detektiivitöö, et kui ikkagi ilmus mingi foto, mida ta alguses mitte kuhugile ei osanud panna, ega siis ennem järgi ei jätnud ju, kui see foto ikka paika sai, nii palju siis puurisid ja otsisid, kuni sa lõpuks selle foto paika said. Samas oli see väga hea selline minu jaoks hea nagu ülevaade sellest, et kuidas linnaruum muutub, kuidas muutub arhitektuur, mood, tehnika, kõik sellised asjad tulid siis ju kihi haaval nendest erinevate ajastute fotodest välja.
And now we come to the second task that has been there since the beginning of Ajapaik, and that is also very much connected to our choice of recording the camera location of the old photos, and this is rephotography. So rephotography is, I think everybody has come across it. It's this method of making then and now picture pairs. We repeat historic pictures, and this has been there since the beginning too, and again it's maybe good to think about what kind of effort is also needed. So where the task of geotagging can be performed best, I guess. Behind a desktop computer at your home, using your own knowledge and different kinds of sources to do this detective work, as Tauno was also mentioning, and comparing other pictures. Then rephotography demands you to really go out and repeat these historic pictures as closely as possible nowadays. And also I think that these different tasks can be targeted to different user groups. So there might be one there are one type of users who are more into this geotagging task, but who don't care really much going outside and taking pictures themselves. But this, for instance, makes this task available, the task of rephotography, available for some other user groups, for instance school children. But our top contributors also have, of course, performed both. So Tauno, in addition to more than 14,000 photos that he has put on the map, has also made rephotos for more than 6,600 photos, and let's hear him.
Lisaks siis sellele 2014 ma kolisin minu jaoks hoopis hea põhjus hakata seda linna uurima, sest ega ma midagi pealt eriti teadnud, aga Ajapaigast korjasin suurema kogu pilte kokku ja hakkasin neid üle pildistama. Ja selle protsessi käigus siis õppisin ka nagu linna tundma ja sain selle avastamisrõõmu juurde.
So I think here I would like to use an urbanist Kevin Lynch from his book What Time Is This Place, that this kind of continuity is very important for us as humans. So and it can be different kind of continuity of people or things or places. And I think that actually the method of rephotography has a lot to do with this same need for continuity. We want to connect history and nowadays. And this is also, I think, as stated also in the conference topic, that learning is powerful when things are experienced firsthand. And I think that rephotography is this kind of a first-hand experience. So when we go out, and even if the picture has been geotagged more or less accurately, still in order to align the contemporary view with the historic picture, we need to scrutinize very attentively the old picture and the contemporary picture, the contemporary view, what changes have taken place, how do things align, in relation to each other, etc. So this really makes us to, or for us who do this rephotography, to anchor this knowledge on historic pictures in this real world. And for that we have a dedicated mobile app for Android only, unfortunately, but the main idea of the app is that actually it displays this historic picture semi-transparently on top of the camera view. Earlier on in the presentation there was a short screencast as well, and we can actually adjust the transparency of the historic image or zoom it in order to align the old photo with contemporary view as precisely as possible, and then be able to record it. Although Ajapaik is of Estonian origin and most of our content still is from Estonia, our biggest collaboration outside of Estonia has been in Finland, in our northern neighboring country, in collaboration with Finnish Wikipedians. So for 2 years now there has been a special track in the worldwide photo competition Wiki Loves Monuments, so which is organized around the world in the Wikimedia movement to invite users to take pictures of historic sites and monuments and buildings. So we've created a rephotography track under this competition. So now to give voice to some other Ajapaik users, let's move on to Peter, who has geotagged more than 7,000 pictures and also made rephotos, many of them.
Refotode tegemisega on veel tekkinud lisaboonus minu jaoks see, et kui kuskile sõiduks läheb, siis enne vaatan vastava piirkonna albumid üle, ehk õnnestub tee peal või sihtkohas midagi ka ajapaiga jaoks jäädvustada.
So again, the same idea of combining your own travel with this task of rephotography, and I think that another quote from Lynch, that it is important for stimuli and familiar reassurances that we can recognize something, and by rephotographing we really create this historic dimension to these sites in a very personal way. But then we have added new tasks since last year, some that have been waiting for quite long, but first of these is, for instance, tagging persons. So the same issue with incomplete descriptions, unmentioned persons on the pictures, etc. So it's not much difference if we're talking about the geographic information about places or also information about people on these pictures. So this, for instance, is the Swedish king, almost exactly 28 years ago in visiting Haapsalu. And again, Peeter.
Järgmine samm oli kultuurilooliselt tuttavate nimede ja fotode sidumine. Võrdlesid omavahel fotosid, püüdsid ära arvata, kes on kes. Õnneks ei ole need minu määramised kivisse raiutud. Ulmaga peaksin eksima, saavad teised ajapaigalised mind korrigeerida. Aga püüaks ma teda võimalikult vähe eksima.
So here also Peter brings out this very important aspect of social validation that and that is it's also okay to make mistakes. And the idea is that if many of us are contributing, this knowledge gets better. The same way as Wikipedia is working. Then we added another task of here we already have some kind of automation included, but also users need to validate what these algorithms are suggesting. And currently these relations between the same exemplars of this or different exemplars of the same image usually are not recorded in these official repositories. We also added this option to just tag age and gender of a person on a picture, and this of course now could be also combined with machine learning. We haven't done that yet, but still we are also in a way creating training data. But the idea here is that even if we don't know who is this person on the picture, we can help to tag whether it's a woman or a man, and what age class is this person from. Is it a child, an adult, or an elderly person? And if we have all the persons described or tagged that way, it enables us to find content. For instance, somebody is looking for pictures of his or her grandfather from a specific region, then we can filter out pictures depicting the only men from this region. And we also added the task of transcribing text, so and it's related to postcards. For instance, here is a postcard sent from Haapsalu with a picture of Haapsalu, and postcards are actually a very, very rich media. We have a lot of pieces of information here on the stamps, on the image, the address, we have dates, etc. So, and all of that currently is not yet machine readable, or we cannot do visualizations yet unless we have all this data transcribed and recorded in a structured way. If we look at the history of Ajapaik, then we started in February 2011. We validated the idea or the concept that people can do this geotagging. First we added some 600 pictures from Tallinn, then we added couple of hundreds pictures more from other towns in Estonia, and we identified that the bottleneck was curating historic content to the platform. So in spring 2015 we added this option, another micro task basically for users to curate content to Ajapaik. We have a connection, we have had connection to different repositories where user can actually, so on this special module of curation, user can make a textual search. Here I was searching for Haapsalu from a Finnish repository called Finna, and then we get some results. We can select these images and add these pictures to Ajapaik. And this was the way how actually the number of the content on Ajapaik started to grow. And then we can see there's a clear correlation also with the number of pictures being geotagged. And for long the overall number of rephotos lower compared to the number of old pictures, but now we can see that the number of rephotos has reached more than 16,000, so this is becoming more and more considerable too. If we look at the content sources on Ajapaik, so most of the content is retrieved from the Estonian Museums database or central repository for all Estonian museums called MUIS, and actually then there are other sources. So now this marked part of the diagram is basically Estonian content, and then we can see that we have a lot of content also from retrieved from Finna, about Helsinki mostly, but also other Finnish towns, but mostly Helsinki. There is an aspect of gamification that has also been there since the beginning, and it is have not been stressing it too much, but let's say it is quite important. Another top contributor of Ajapaik, Aivo, who has made a lot of geotags and also rephotos. His comments. So I think he was actually modest, but I think that this small kind of a competition, that all your contributions, you get points for them, for these, and depending on the type of the task, the number of points is different, etc. So, and now we actually arrive to the aspect, or it's been there all the way, of the importance of the community of Ajapaik. And although I was telling how important it is to or it's more effective if we recognize the places on the pictures, for us to geotag these pictures, then if we look at the actual statistics, so this diagram has classes of users based on the number of geotags users have submitted. So blue is missing, so this is only one geotag submitted, and what we can see here is that that we have actually the top contributors who have each contributed the location or geotag to more than 500 pictures, half of the total number of geotags on the site. And actually the number of these top contributors is only 45. So there is 45 users who have done that, and their contribution equals is a bit more than half of all the contributions. So if you are really into this task and into this topic, you actually can do a lot. But still, I mean, all these contributions are important, and there might be pictures from some very remote places or not well-known places where we really need to reach people who. And of course, there's a lot of plans that we have, and this platform needs to be more social. So we need to bring out the discussion between users in a better way, to have this kind of ways to subscribe to places, etc. And for us, it is also very important to think, if we think about as developers of the platform, about the functionality versus usability. So to have just the basic functionality in place for some kind of input of data, in a way is an easy task. But how to create these interfaces, in a way that they are easy to use and intuitive to use, this is very hard. And these top contributors, they are very forgiving. They are very loyal, and if they learn the system, they can contribute a lot. But how to make this understandable to new users, for instance? Of course, the next thing is to combine technology and crowdsourcing, that I have also already been mentioning, and have some of the tasks automated and users validating. So not only inputting, but just validating the categorizations, for instance, made by the algorithms. And the main challenge is about engaging users. So also the easy part is to have the mobile app have it there, have all this functionality, which makes it easy to take free photographs, but still how to keep users engaged. This is still something that we need to find ways. And we want to extend our network and reach more different user groups. This year we plan to reach out the interested in the military history in Estonia. The task of identifying persons has a very direct connection to genealogy. We want to also work with local libraries in order to have this kind of local initiatives of gathering historic images from private collections, putting these online, identifying, etc. But of course, one of the biggest challenges also for this kind of initiative is its sustainability, how to sustain this. We do not have a business model, so it's in a way it's like Wikipedia, just about pictorial content. So we depend on users to help with their knowledge and information they have, and we have applied for grant funding over the years, and have not been too successful in that, and really been functioning with a very low budget. At the same time, our approach is that our application is open source, and the data that we are producing is also open data. Even the translation of Ajapaik user interface is done together with other leading open source platforms like the Wikimedia ecosystem, Wikipedia. So it's on a platform called Translate Wiki, where basically it's a crowdsourced way of translating it as well. So everybody can contribute into translating Ajapaik user interface. Although, of course, the question then is how can we also have content for all these different language groups from all around the world. And so this is it. This is what the Ajapaik is, what we want to achieve, and what has been our experiences so far. And I'm looking forward to hearing your questions now. And here you can find a link to the online presentation. Many of the slides also have links behind them. Thank you very much.